Welcome to the Payment Shed podcast, the weekly podcast that dives into the big topics, trends, and people shaping the worlds of payments, fintech, and business leadership, with your two co-hosts, myself, Grant Evans, and Justin Hanna. Welcome to another episode of the Payment Shed podcast. Today we are joined by Nick Dobson, co-founder and CEO of Unetix. Nick, welcome to the Payment Shed. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you've done in payments and fintech over the last few years and what you're doing with Unetix at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, great to be here. Thanks, guys. Well, where do you begin? So I think I'm coming up close to 25 years in payments. Yeah.
Get a free bus pass.
Yeah. I don't know if they still give those anymore, do they? But yeah, so it started off actually weirdly enough as more techie in there, and small software outfit that started developing credit card authorization software back in the days when you used to have to plug it into a phone line or a PSTN line. After a couple of acquisitions, actually, that's what is MasterCard Payment Gateway now. So seeing quite a lot. So from the start of chip and pin, I remember being in deployments for that. Saw the first version of PCI. How's that evolved? First versions of 3D Secure. Yeah. So been through and kind of done it a lot. More recently, been in more kind of leadership roles around commercial and product, focused on kind of that aggregation of gateway and acquiring into a single solution. And that's really kind of led us to kind of where we are with Unetix. So Unetix is a payments intelligence platform. What does that mean? It's a view of where we're helping merchants really get a better understanding of the data that exists within that transactional lifecycle, bringing it all together into a single source, and then helping them make better decisions around their business and the growth, but also helping them look into what does that mean for me in the future. So starting to change the dial of looking backwards, helping them start to look forwards.
And I guess from the merchant and platform side, most companies are still going through this really manual reconciliation process, and that's a real pain point for them. So what was the kind of spark for you guys with Unetix where you're like, this is something we just have to solve? Like, what was that moment where you're like, we're going to do this?
I think there wasn't a single point, and I think there probably has been dozens of conversations over the last decade where you sit down with someone and they really struggle with certain components of that life cycle. For me, if I look at it actually personally, there was a conversation I had probably about 12 months ago with a CEO of an e-com business, and they'd just deployed that new gateway, multiple new acquirers, quite a complex deployment. And I said, we were just kind of having a catch up over lunch, and said, well, what would you do again? What's the learnings from that? And he said, Nick, I wish we had more experience and knowledge when we did it. There's so much that we've learned along the way that I know other people have already done. How can we capture that? And he said, and I really wish I had a payment specialist in the business that knew all of this and can then help me go through. And we've kind of had to fumble around and make those mistakes over the last year in order to get where we are. Successful project in the end, but I think that's one of those learnings where you could get on for that. And I think there's been so many over the years, but that for me was the one. And I know with the co-founding team is, we've had those as well. They've had numerous conversations with customers where they've just really struggled to understand what's happening within their business. And it is like a foreign language. Now, most of these guys are e-com specialists. They're not payment specialists. Like we know, Stripe's language is completely different to Adyen, completely different to WorldPay. So they don't really all fit together. And it's like, okay, well, someone calls something different. They've got a different format. It's delivered in a different way. How do you, first of all, how do you rationalize that? And then how do you use that to actually make a better business decision?
It's interesting calling out different acquirers as well, because we're in this moment in time, right, where more merchants than ever have multiple acquirer relationships. So that's a really interesting point that you make around the different ways that data is presented and that reliance on, I have to go here to find that data for that acquirer, and that, put it all in one place and make it look the same for finance teams, for account management teams, whatever it might be.
Decline reasons is a prime example of that, right? Because every single acquirer will show decline reasons is in a different way from the raw files. Then the way that a gateway will then consume that data is different to the way that they were then presented to the merchants. It does make it really, really confusing for merchants who want to try and understand payments.
Yeah. And then you add another one in and it completely changes it for you.
Yeah.
Or as we all know, having spent quite a lot of time in acquirers, someone changes something and doesn't tell you
overnight.
so it then completely changes and breaks that model. So the whole idea here is to build a platform that takes that pain away, but not just from a data perspective. And I know you mentioned reconciliation there. To be honest, that's so far down the chain. I mean, reconciliation is, have I got my money in my bank? Kind of yes, no. Does that matter? Actually, there's so much more in that transactional journey that you can influence or understand to make better decisions with the business. Decline rates is one. Fraud rates. Chargebacks. How do I perform as with certain issuers and certain bins? So they're all the kinds of questions that we're helping to actually answer for merchants now. We're starting to go, well, how do I grow my business? What's the next market I can enter? What actually is good? And am I good? And am I doing it the right way? Even down to do I have a certain issue with certain industries or certain markets where fraud is killing my return on investment? I've got 100 grand here. Where do I spend it on my next marketing budget?
Do you think the industry then has focused for so long on the front end of payments as opposed to really concentrating on the back end kind of intelligence around it?
Spot on. I completely agree with that. It's kind of the shiny kind of front end of it all, and everyone's been so focused on conversion and making the payment happen, but actually there's so much leaking out the back end and being lost. And you're right, that looking at it from a data perspective, I think people have been very black and white, whereas now we can look at it from actually intelligence. And what does intelligence mean? Intelligence is helping me make a better decision rather than be reactive to something that I've seen 2 weeks ago.
Can you give some examples of like manual processes in data fragmentation that you've seen in the market?
Great question. And there's one that springs to mind about 6-7 years ago where working with a customer, and you kind of get into the business and you understand they're doing manual process. Every store was writing down what they did and sending it into head office. They were bringing it together into a centralized view. And it's like, hang on a second, finance was spending 4 days just adding spreadsheets together. Okay, we've moved well beyond that now, but that just shows you how antiquated some of this is. Obviously, look, we've been doing lots of research and finding out about sort of things at the moment. And 9 in 10 merchants and businesses out there struggle with payment operations. So there's a real issue of, is that reconciling? Is that actually understanding what's going on in my business? Is that, knowing, fraud and chargebacks and where I've got a problem and what's driving that, rather than, okay, well, yes, I've got a problem and I've just lost that. How do I see that coming? What do I do in order to change that? And how do I adapt to make it all,
It's like POS and e-com as well, right? We're still in a position where, for me, in 2025, every single acquirer should have their POS and their e-com offering synced into one reporting tool. But it's just not the reality in the market. And like you say, we've all been in payments for far too long, but to still be sat here now saying, how is that not just... a lot of other things have evened out and become norms, but there's still this disparity in
why
terms
can't PSPs fix it? Why can't merchants fix it internally?
And they can, and they tried. I mean, look, we're working with a range of different businesses at the moment now, from real small ones to ones that are probably household global names. And you think, okay, some of them are more advanced than not, but the challenges they've got are all very similar. As first of all, it's a different language, different way of working. Secondly, it's that massive investment. I mean, we know guys that have spent significant 6-figure sums, if not 7-figure, building platforms. You're running your own BI platforms in-house internally, and then you need to have the knowledge wrapped around it to make it all work. And that's just those guys. Imagine if you're just starting out and you don't have that experience and things like that as well. So that's where I think it really kind of comes into it is, yes, you can do it yourself, but why would you? And then you've got that shared learning of, okay, well, what we really want to kind of get into is, okay, well, how does the data help me? Because again, once you've done it and you've built it all yourself, you still only know your business. So how do I perform against someone else in my MCC category? What's good in Denmark visa processing? You don't know, because you can only look at yourself. I've suddenly got a fraud spike in Croatia for MasterCard. is everybody else having the same thing?
Benchmarking is key, right?
It's so actually where we really want to start owning it is becoming that kind of like an index and completely anonymized. How do I perform against the market and benchmarking? And that's what's also going to start to drive. And I've had conversations with acquirers already where they really don't understand what's going on in their own business. I mean, coming back to previous roles, we really didn't, how could I compare against someone else? Because you only ever look at your own little box. You know you got a problem, but how do I quantify that problem?
So is mission number one then simplify reconciliation or create intelligence for you guys?
Mission number one is intelligence-led. For me, reconciliation comes as part of this, but I think for us, the value in what we're doing is using intelligence to allow businesses to grow. And sometimes that can be growth by cost optimization, but most of it should be growth by how do I do more in the market? How do I grow more? How do I enter a new market? How do I optimize my processing? So all of that wrapped together in a single platform.
So when we talk on payments, life cycles and intelligence, you guys kind of the world's first, right? In inverted commas, which is great, exciting. Yeah. What does that actually mean for businesses, do you think?
It's a good question. I think there's an educational piece of what intelligence needs to be around payments, because again, we talked about it before. It's been so focused at the front end. I think, some people do use data, and we had the big boom of big data 10 years ago, followed by the whole blockchain sort of things. And is AI now driving that next kind of evolution? I think it's made it more accessible for people. But again, back to the point is data unless you can get actionable insight out of it. And that's what ultimately intelligence is using it to make the right decision within my business. Is that turn something off? Is that turn something on? Is it grow something over there? Is it focus that over there? That's what we're looking to build, is something which becomes that inherent tool that helps people have the dial of their business and a single version of the truth. Because as we said before, there's multiple different places for where things are coming from. And we did some analysis of one of our early adopters recently. They're getting nearly 700 files a week from the payment chain. So that's, or settlement, capture, fraud alerts, chargeback alerts. How do you manage those? And some of that life cycle could be over 6 months. So you've got to be managing and on the pulse of everything. So that's what we've built. It's something that automates that. You don't need to worry about it. Do you know what? You had another acquirer? We've already done it. You want another fraud or chargeback provider, or there's something else that you want to add on? We've already done that.
When we were chatting before, you kind of called it the chief payments officer that never sleeps, right? I really like that as a kind of phrase. So they're just there in the background, or the product's there in the background doing that hard legwork for you. Someone wakes up in the morning, they come in, and the data they need to see about all those things you talked about, the auth, the chargeback, everything, settlement files, just there, ready to go, right? But also then to make recommendations beyond that with the data that's been received, right?
Yeah, you spot on is, and I love that phrase. It's a chief payment officer as a platform. It's how does it help me as my business run it? Because I think back to the comment I made before about this CEO who said, I wish I had more payments knowledge within there. Well, this provides some of that and helps to understand that. So it's not just, it's automated alerts. So set the thresholds. Tell me how your business works. What's important to you? So you're getting those real-time alerts when something is happening. So you can actually make a difference about it. So you look at the average life cycle of a transaction. What's an auth code last? 7 days? Most people reconcile on a monthly basis. So you're causing yourself a problem there. And I think we've probably all had experiences. I remember some time ago, major high street retailer went and settled to them for 3 months because someone changed a bank account. I mean, they nearly went into administration, and you kind of like, wow,
I've had a couple of stories like that recently. There was a merchant I was speaking to in a previous role where, again, they changed provider. The provider was based in Europe, and some cock up had happened in the background with bank accounts, and they couldn't pay their staff at Christmas. It was getting to that point where they're like, we've got people waiting on salaries. Like our card payments are our lifeblood, and you're not settling us. A, we're going to probably sue you, but B, like we could go out of business. It's
I think it gets back to that point where, again, it comes to the front end versus the back end, right? businesses and merchants spend so much time trying to get customers through the door to make a payment that sometimes the piece of actual settlement and then when the money comes back round the ecosystem is forgotten about, and the revenue is literally being left on the table. You mentioned about leaking revenue. Merchants, I believe, 90% of merchants are leaking revenue that they don't even know exists.
Completely agree.
What do you think then the key points, if you were a PSP or an acquirer, what do you think then will be kind of the pain points you guys will be helping them on for their merchants?
As I mentioned before, I think, having been in acquirers before, we really struggled to get an understanding of where we were in the market and what were we good at and what were we bad at. So it's not about pointing fingers. It's about educating. It's about helping people understand that in an apples for apples environment as well. Okay, what is good and what is bad and how's that work? Right down to an issuer level. And I think for me, that's super exciting, being able to really kind of get into that across the ecosystem. From more of a PSP point of view, look, there's multiple providers out there. And I think this is also the challenge where you only get to see your box, your square, what kind of goes through you. And a lot of them haven't been ultimately interested in payments intelligence. Reconciliation's one, and how do I optimize acceptance? But it's not that full kind of ecosystem of looking at it full end to end that I think is really what's kind of the sexy part of this.
And then I guess, as ever, we have to talk about AI, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing that it's not really going away, is it? Right? We talk about it every time. But are you guys predicting issues before they arise with AI? How does it plug into your platform? I guess because everyone says they're doing something with AI, right? But there's nuances to it in terms of the way you're actually using it.
Yeah, and I'll be super honest with this. We've got AI in there and various components of it, and the guys have done some amazing things with it. Back to the reconciliation point, being able to learn data types, map data types, ingest data really quickly and easily and slickly, and bring down that error rate. It's awesome, and that's one of those really great use cases. For me, I think AI, there's a bit of a bugbear in there because everyone and their dog at the moment is putting AI on there. We do AI this, we do AI that. And it kind of comes back to that big data time. Everyone was doing big data 5 years ago. Everything was blockchain.
Machine learning.
Yeah. Open banking.
Yeah, open banking. And now it's going to come onto that AI. And I think, yes, there's a lot, but is this, a lot of people claim to do AI when it's probably just some advanced automation or a bit of machine learning and stuff. So, yeah,
that's the big one for me. The machine learning, right? Yeah. Machine learning has been there for a very long time. We've kind of put a shiny new bonnet on top of the engine, but
and it is only as good as it gets. I don't know about you and me, but I break ChatGPT every day. I mean, I have an argument with it and say, you lied to me. Oh yeah, sorry, Nick, I did. Yeah, I'll go off and do that. Oh, I can't find that information. Well, that's weird because I found that here. Did you look at this website? No. So it's only as good as the model it is. So back to your point around the data, yes, we will be, and we're training models and looking at how that data is there, but we're super clear on making sure that data is anonymized. We're not into sharing that kind of data and things like that. And I have no interest in saying, well, this is Nick's business and this is how Grant does in his business. That's not what we're about. It's about kind of giving you industry indexes of actually what does good look across the market? What does my MCC look like in Germany? What does this certain bin range? Is it causing me an issue? And how do others perform around that? It's more around driving performance across the industry and insight rather than going, hey, this is what this guy's doing. You should look at that.
The Payment Shed podcast is proudly sponsored by Tammy AI, the market intelligence and lead generation platform built for sales and marketing teams who want precision, not guesswork. Tammy helps businesses identify their best fit prospects, gain deep market insights, and boost revenue growth. And it really has become the go-to solution for the payments and fintech industries. Both Justin and I have used the tool in previous organizations that we've been in, and we really can't recommend it highly enough. There's a link in the bio to click on the Tammy website and find out more about their product. You really won't regret it.
That huge bugbear of mine, and people talk about honest transactions, and it frustrates me, is if you are doing X acquirer with X issuer, why do you get a better acceptance rate? And it shouldn't be like that, right? So if you're WorldPay's acquiring platform, it's HSBC card, or if it's a NatWest card, or if it's a Barclaycard card, it should be the same acceptance rate as if it was going through Barclaycard acquiring or HSBC acquiring. And it's just not like that, right? So it sounds like from what you guys are doing today is understanding that difference and as to seeing it, not necessarily before it happens, but as it's happening, and be able to report on that, the intelligence behind it, to then give back to the merchant.
Yeah.
What, I suppose the question there is, why is it not happening today? Apart from the data pools behind the acquirers.
But even then, I don't think the acquirers are really doing it to a level
fair.
they probably could. And I think,
Fair.
do you know, that's a good question. And I think for us, we're excited because I think there's an opportunity here, and we've really understood it, and we've been working with customers that have got these pains and have brought it to table. And but it has been a reoccurring thing that's come up. Again, back to it, possibly because it's not the sexy front end of it. It's not a payment page. It's not conversion. It's not an Apple Pay button. It's different, or maybe it's because the tools don't exist up until now.
You kind of turn that raw data and make it into decisions for businesses, right?
I think part of the problem is the sheer amount of M&A activity that's happened as well. So an acquirer is not an acquirer anymore. An acquirer is a payments business, or it is just a business that services the global economy, right? It doesn't even have to have payments in the title in terms of, from a Stripe point of view, they buy, they're not a new company, right? Anymore. Yeah, the tech company. Yeah, but how many different companies have Stripe got feeding data even to their own platform? So you become a giant oil rig, right? With the sheer volume of data that you've got from all these different data sources. So even someone like Stripe would struggle probably overnight to, they'll try their best, I'm sure. But like, as you scale to that level, there's always going to be opportunity for other players coming in and going, well, actually, we're going to look at a small pool of your customer base and your customer base and your customer base. And actually, they're using all of you guys, or they just don't get what they need from you guys. So there's always that gap in the market, which is why payments such a great industry, right? There will always be little weak points within large organizations that then lead to new businesses entering the market that actually show the others how they should be doing something, and then they eventually get bought as well, and they get sucked into the machine, and then the next one comes. But we always have new startups, always have new innovation in the payments industry. It keeps it so interesting.
Yeah, you're right. I've always had a phrase where it used to be, acquirer buys a gateway, acquirer ruins the gateway, acquirer goes and buys another gateway, and it generally happens is there seems to be an inherent thing as you get to the size of an acquirer. Innovation stagnates, doesn't it? It just doesn't seem to happen. It becomes more about sweating the beast, getting more and more out of the engine, and that's where you kind of lose that ability, and therefore gaps do evolve. You're right. You made a really interesting point there, where it was kind of about that kind of growth and scale and size. And we were talking to a customer of the week, and he said to me, "Right, you got 5,000 transactions, really easy to reconcile. I can throw a couple of spreadsheets at it. Not really a problem. Get to 50,000. Okay. Things start to creak and I've got a couple of people doing that. Stick 500,000 on there and people aren't going to solve it for you. You need to automate that process. And I think that's actually a fundamental issue across a lot of acquirers and businesses have been in, is to get that incremental growth like that. You can't just throw people and bodies at it anymore.
Yeah. And I think then that raw data that we talk about, how are you guys then turning that into decisions? So I'm that business that's gone from 5 to 50 to 500,000, and suddenly I've got a huge amount of data, and then things like retry logic come in because they've got more than one acquirer now probably at that point. Like, how do you take that data and go back to Mr. Business Owner or Mrs. Business Owner and say, right, the platform says do this, and we think you'll get these outcomes from going down this route or routing these transactions here. How are you kind of building that out?
So it's all in automated dashboards and triggers and alerts and things like that as well. And they'll be going, again, everyone's going to be different of what they're looking for. So early on, it's going to be a help about training that and making that work with those businesses to get the right answers. Just wanted, so first thing is to be clear is at this stage, we're very much post-transaction. We're not involved in that. And I think there is an opportunity still within the market, especially within orchestrators. Is very few of them have API routing engines, so you're stuck in their platform being able to make their change. And if you don't have the data within your orchestrator, you're not going to get the intelligence you need to make that decision. What happens if there's I don't know, and we've seen it. I think some of your posts that you've done back in the day. Completely forgotten your name, Justin.
It's easily done.
Yeah, it is easily done. But you're right. But one of your posts, I think a while ago, was talking about like literally into hour acceptance rates. And at some point we want to get to that point where you're real time. You be able to see that, and you see that you might not be processing something like that, but you want to learn from that knowledge. You want to benefit from that and help that. So actually, it's evolving that. That's where AI comes into it, and the view of kind of getting to a real agentic model to say, hey, we're seeing this. Do you want to make that change? And at the first stage, and it's going to be very much human driven. Okay, do you want to do it? You're going to have to go off and do that. But actually, do you be able to integrate that into the orchestrators or another platform that's actually able to take that request in real time and go, hey, we've seen it. We've seen that this issuer is failing. Let's route all that traffic over there.
A big thing I always have, and you mentioned it there, is if I'm got a recurring card payment and it's coming out at 3 o'clock in the morning and I bank with NatWest, and I don't get paid till 4 o'clock in the morning, why would a merchant ever want to try and pull their payment at 3:01 in the morning when there's no funds in the account? Why we're not using AI data to say, actually, we know that most NatWest consumers don't get paid till 4:01. We should try and take this recurring transaction at 4:05, because you're just battling with every other business that's trying to take their funds out of that account, right?
Race to the wallet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's worked in lending in the past.
How do you manage kind of the sensitivity part of that? So compliance is a huge piece, right? It's a buzzword that most people in sales don't get along with. But from your perspective, how can you make sure you're being compliant when you're trying to give that insight to your merchants?
So look, we built this with compliance and security from the ground up, and that's critical to what we do. And we know that some people are going to be cautious about where does my data go, and how do we control that. So it's bank level grade. We've made sure we're kind of we're doing that. We're looking at GDPR and all those relevant things that kind of surround that to ensure that we give that confidence. The reality is this is already merchants' data already. It's already kind of out there. And actually, it's quite interesting that it's probably even out there in the open market, to be honest. There's so much now with cyber threats and things like that it's a challenge. But we've taken and we addressed it seriously, and we give the confidence to people that we'll look after it as if it's our own. It's the only way you can do it.
And it gets harder. I mean, again, you said when we were chatting before, someone could have 200 acquirers on your platform if they wanted to, right? So then you're dealing with huge amounts of inbound data sources from different locations, from different acquirers. Protecting that initially, yes, that you built the infrastructure around that. I'm more interested though in the way we're going as far as staying ahead of scheme and compliance, in the market is concerned. So you've got rapid dispute response now. We've got things going on with VAMP, right? So you're dealing with different ways of handling chargebacks moving forward. So you'll have merchants in your ecosystem that have got, let's say we've got a medium high risk traditionally merchant. They've got 6 to 12 different acquirers. They then have to manage different regulatory changes from the schemes. They have to deal with chargebacks into different acquirers as well.
Yeah.
They've got the VAMP rules coming in. How is your system kind of set up for those regulatory pieces that are coming into play?
Yeah, VAMP's been a real interesting one to talk about, and a bit of a driver for where we've kind of got to, because so many people don't have a clue. I mean, look, I think for Visa for quite a while didn't really have a clue what they were putting out there. It's changed so many times. But I guess if you look at it in a version of, say, right, okay, well, we made that change once. We made that calculation change once. Everyone gets that. So, the data and the dashboards and the platform now is giving me a view of, well, how do I stand with VAMP today? What does my calculation look like? And where's that trending? Is it going up or is it going down based on the historical data I've got? And we also know that it's going to be revised in April. So what do I look like now? Am I getting towards that? Or actually, am I going the wrong way? That's how useful it is for merchants to be able to do that. And do you know what? It will change again. And we know MasterCard's probably going to come out with their own version of it. So, we create that calculation and we can instantly give them a view and say, right, this is where you are today. And actually, based on your trends over the last 6 months, are you going up or are you going down? Or are you stagnant? It becomes really powerful from that point of view.
It can be challenging, and we work for smaller PSP before, and something we called out, and I think it has got better, but the schemes always had great relationships with the acquirers, right? The issuers and the acquirers, and the schemes first to hear about everything, first to be guided on everything, and then you had independent PSPs that would, you'd find it in the market, but you weren't directly getting that information. And then you guys are then another step removed as an agnostic player, focusing on data, like you say, post transaction auth, right? So how is your relationship with the schemes? Do you have a relationship with the schemes, or do you feel still like there's more to be done in that area? Because that's going to be pivotal for you guys. Obviously, doesn't matter who the acquirer is, but from a scheme point of view, what they are saying and dictating to the market is massively important to you guys and your customer base, right?
Look, we're starting to have conversations, and we'd love to have more, and we'd love to open those doors, because I think this is a way for them to help monitor market. Again, we've had conversations. People, I get some of this data from MasterCard. Great, but it's only one scheme. This is this whole point of wherever you end up, there's always a single view, which is why we've found that there's this kind of knowledge gap at the bottom end that's really not helping everyone just kind of see. And we fully well know Visa and MasterCard, they do behave in different ways, completely different beasts. Then you've got Amex. Then you start looking at APMs and all the other things like that, and that will kind of come into that ecosystem as well. So it's not just a single player, but you're spot on. We'd love to get involved in more, and we know the journey of the data is all acquirers in essence get the same data from the schemes and the issuers. But does that come out the back end? We know that's not the case.
Absolutely not, no.
So stuff gets stripped out. Information gets lost on the way. Why? Didn't think it was important at the time. Not got the capability to manage it.
It was built 20 years ago to get us to market as quick as possible.
Again,
and now
spot
a
on.
business done pretty well. 20 years later, we've got no idea what that actually means. And it happens all the time. I think what's interesting there, we talk about the schemes, talk about acquirers. There's a lot of gateways and PSPs that they've got their own criteria settings before it even is sent to an acquirer. So I think where you guys come into it, from my perspective, is it's not just helping the merchants, it is helping potential PSPs as well to ensure that they're sending the right data in their files to the schemes to get the right files back. Interesting. So what would you say then would be the commercial upside, do you think, for a merchant that's maybe invested into payments intelligence now as opposed to in 10 years' time?
It's a really smart question. I mean, look, there's an argument always for waiting. It's a budget time, I think. But the longer you often wait for these things, very few people ever go, I'm so glad I waited 3 years to do this. It's always that answer. And you'll know that some people, they often don't know they're missing out on it until they understand it. And I think that's where we'll come into that. Is helping them really understand what does intelligence mean. I think you talk to quite a lot of businesses and they'll be like, I don't need payments intelligence. I'm good enough myself. And we're building it that, try it, learn it, use it for free for a period of time, something like that. And there's freemium model in there as well. And how do you educate them that actually you are missing things, and it only takes a small amount to make it worthwhile. If you can increase an acceptance rate by 0.2% on a £10 million business, that's worthwhile. And it's those small incremental amounts. It's kind of back to your Team Sky approach. If I can take 1% here and 1% here and 0.5% here.
Mark Barrowford,
the aggregate of those together might give me 6 or 7%, and that's you can convert as many customers as you want, drive as much traffic to your customers into your platform as you can. You're probably not going to get that much from a mature business in terms of uplift in new revenue.
I think it's one of these things, and we say it in payments all the time, is you don't know what you don't know, right? So I suppose from your perspective, it's getting people to let us in and we can show you what we're able to do for you.
And how do you see Unetix fitting into the broader payment stack when we think longer term with this? Are you guys going to be a partner? Are you going to be an overlay for other systems? Are you going to be an operating system? Like, what's the plan of action there?
The foremost at the moment is we're merchant focused, and that's the real value. We've already had conversations with some partners and starting to open that out, and I think there's a really good opportunity there for that. For people to help manage their businesses better and get better insights as well. So yeah, and again, you look at multiple businesses. They might have multiple gateways, and I've come across business before where you big acquirers, 4 different platforms. They've got a gateway themselves, isn't integrated to all 4 platforms.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, how do your customers get a consolidated view of what's going on in your business? It's insane, really. But that's legacy and time and effort and things to kind of get into that. So I think we play a really important role at that bottom end, kind of being that glue of helping kind of bring things together. And there will be opportunities, I think, sure, to kind of use that as a better intelligent layer to make better decisions.
I think it's that classic thing of you're closer to the merchant sometimes when you're going merchant first, and you're talking about that oil tanker thing I mentioned earlier. You then get closer to, well, what are your actual pain points? What are your actual problems? And then platforms like you guys arise, and you're like, we're doing this because we're on the front line. We're actually talking to the customers day in, day out that face these issues. I was just going to ask you one question as well, obviously knowing that, core part of your founding team, obviously based in Europe, prior experience founding European businesses as well. And we talked a lot about cards and schemes today, but the local payment methods, we have the stuff with Wero in Europe taking place at the moment, Ideal about to obviously fall under that Wero umbrella, and different challenges arise in terms of managing disputes with some of the local payment methods that we see in Europe. Is that kind of like a nuanced thing that you guys have had to factor in as well? Because as you scale, I presume Europe's going to be a big focus for you guys as well. So what are the differentials that you see with some of those local payment methods versus card?
Spot on. Growth markets, UK, Europe for sure. Although we're already having conversations in the US, and I can imagine Asia Pac will come quite quickly as well. So it's not going to be isolated to that. But yeah, you're right. Nuances, even in UK, PayPal, it's a huge part of the market, and making sure that's factored in and managed. And that's, again, the way we built that. It's agnostic to the methods, and everyone will have different ways to do it. And back to your point on the AI part, pretty damn smart in terms of the way that it can understand the flows of those different transactional journeys. And I keep banging on about it, and even with the guys, and I know they're kind of get bored about it with me, it's about that transactional life cycle that I think people really struggle to understand, that it's not just I take a payment and I'm done. There's so many components that happen after the event. That could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. And every APM is slightly different in the way that operates. Timeframes can be consolidated, can get longer. So we've taken all that into account, and it's quite interesting.
Fantastic. Now, Nick, we've reached the best bit of the show, the shelf of shame. One thing we'd like to hear from you is what we'd like to bring from the merchant services world to the payment shed that you'd like to banish forever.
My biggest pain point, and I reckon you'll echo this as well, is where people say, I do 5 million card transaction a month, and they do 5,000. So it's the overestimating, because they think they're going to get a better price.
Yeah.
And actually what it does is it's just great. Having been in commercial roles and had bosses, it just puts a massive monkey on your back that you can't get off because someone said something, because you gear up the business for it. Every day you're getting a fraud flag or an alert from risk because they're not doing the volume that they said they were going to do. So it's not just about the commercials, it's about the whole operation.
We talk about salespeople in payments overselling, but sometimes merchants oversell back to the payments industry, right?
Why partnerships is better though, because merchant-wise, it's harder to put a massive monthly minimum on, right? With a platform partner or a partner in general, they'll tell you exactly what you've just said, and you can call their bluff a lot more because you go, great, you tell me you're going to have 700 customers in 6 months. If you don't, our platform fee is £10,000 or 15, and then they go, about those 7,000 customers.
There's a couple of zeros by
Dave
accident.
forgot a zero, so 700. Can we do a £500 monthly minimum for a month? Oh, okay, yeah.
I think it's a really good point.
It does seem like deja vu that we've had this conversation many a time over a pint. and I don't think you're going to beat me. And I was always direct. Okay, looked after kind of partnership teams and stuff like that as well. But direct is my heart. And
I've done both, but I'm just saying.
I think it's a valid point now. I think merchants overselling their volumes to try and get cheaper prices for economy of scale, when actually what it does in the long term is probably give a bit of a problem to the person selling them the product.
Yeah. Well, it causes a bigger issue because sometimes it can be that you've over-egged it, and actually the way that you've then underwritten that and the risk and stuff that's involved in that can actually be loss-making because you're having to put additional resource in there to monitor and maintain that and stuff like that. So I think people don't understand sometimes that it's purely just a number on a piece of paper.
In defense of the merchant as well, some of that I think is becoming, what percentage share of wallet can you give us?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's also a caveat or pushback onto the provider, the payments provider. Okay, well, tell us why we should give you more share of wallet. And then it comes down to a platform like yours. We're like, well, actually, we're getting a better authorization rate here, or we're moving into this market where we know the data tells us we're getting a better authorization. So that's why you're getting a smaller share of wallet now, right? If you can evidence the why,
yeah,
changes the price.
If you can tell us why you're lying, that'd be great. I suppose the piece with that is every salesperson that works for a business where they get paid in contract value probably wants a merchant to tell them that they're going to do much bigger volumes, right? Because it means they're going to get paid a little bit more on that sign-on fee. Not saying I am for or against sign-on fees for any merchant service provider.
I've never done sign-on fees, never worked in that way, and I just think sometimes it's just But
I think it's a fantastic idea.
It's the honest, the honesty part of it. And I'm not saying this is everyone, but sometimes it is.
I do agree.
Yeah, I've always said if I'd had every penny of volume that I'd been promised, guarantee you I wouldn't be sat here. I'd have a nice boat somewhere.
You'd still be sat here, Nick.
Yeah, probably.
We'll just be sat on your boat.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true. Yeah, well, maybe that is the next one. Yeah, payment shed on the boat.
I think we could do a payment shed. Yeah. Probably already on the list of ideas that we've got. Well, thanks for joining us in the payment shed today, Nick.
No, love
Tell us where you're going with Unetix. You're going to be at some events over the next few months. Where can people find you? Get in touch, social media?
Quite proactive LinkedIn. I mean, obviously check out unetix.ai is the website.
You've got the new URL.
Yes, it is. It is. Well,
the new world.
Events wise, probably not going to be so active in this part of the year running into Christmas. I think we're very much heads down, got a lot of product stuff to do and kind of get that out. But New Year definitely will be out and about. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing people. And yeah, if anyone wants to know anything, reach out. Pretty easy to get hold of. You know my name and you know the website.
Awesome, perfect. Thanks a lot for your time, Nick.
Cheers, Nick.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.